All right, everybody, welcome back to the Motivatarian Exchange. I'm your host, Dionne Woods, and I am back to remind you also that the turquoiseirisjournal.com, we are actually publishing our fall volume in the next 4 weeks. So
Mhm.
I don't know how time just keeps rocking and rolling. Julia, I know you can understand that as we approach the fall season. But those of you that are looking to subscribe to the turquoiseirisjournal.com, head over there. And if you subscribe today, your first volume will actually be our fall, which is all about celebrating our 5-year anniversary and ways that all of the contributors celebrate different ways and what they celebrate. So it's going to be a very inspiring volume, and we hope you check it out. Today's guest is Julia Veenstra. Hello,
Well,
my friend.
hello, how are you?
Am I saying Veenstra right?
You're saying it perfectly right. Veenstra.
Veenstra.
And
Um,
congratulations on your fall episode, like the
Thank
anniversary,
you.
right?
Thank you. 5 years of doing a
Yeah.
magazine. So we did 2 years digital only, and then everybody said, "We want paper." And I'm like, "I'm scared of paper."
That's amazing. That's a big feat.
So here we are celebrating. And I thought, well, what a great word for all of our artists to showcase is the word celebrate, because you can celebrate small, tiny wins as well as big things. And we all celebrate differently. So there will be 112 pages talking about the word celebrate. So I'm very
Way to
excited for
go.
everybody to see that. Those of you that are watching today, I want to introduce you to Julia. And I ran into her this past year in May at the Rebloom conference, hosted by Kara Fox, Colleen Sutton, and Lori Siebert when
Mhm.
we were in just outside of Madison, Indiana. And Julia came up to me and we started talking about something we had in common, which was art and YouTube. And then after we went our separate ways, I got online and I started following Julia on YouTube. And we promised each other when we parted that we would connect.
Yeah.
And then Julia has reached out to me, and we're going to collaborate down the road. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we do, Julia, go ahead and tell everybody where you are and what all do you do.
Okay. All right. What all do I do?
Yeah.
So I'm Julia, and I am from Hamilton, Ontario, and I have been from Hamilton, Ontario for many, many years. I've lived in 4 different countries. We can talk about some of those countries, but I'm an artist. I'm a visual artist. I'm a painter, but I also own a gallery, an art gallery, and I also run an international online art show. That's pretty exciting. And what else do I do? I'm a mom, I'm a wife. I
Yeah.
have a lovely, lovely husband. I have 5 children who are all married, and so there's 10, and now there's 10 grandbabies, twins that are 7 weeks old, and another one coming in February. So it's a hot, busy house
It is a
around
hot,
here.
busy house around there. Now, I did not know about the 5 kids and 10 grandkids. That
Yeah,
is, I only knew about the twins.
yeah, yeah.
See, in my mind, I imagined one daughter with her twins, and I had no idea that your family, you were so enriched by having so many loved ones all
Yeah,
around you.
the oldest grandchild is 11 and in grade 6, and that is wild to me. How can I have a grandchild that's already in middle school?
Yeah.
And it's a very they're very we have Sunday afternoon lunches, and it's very busy around here.
That sounds wonderful, Julia.
Yeah, and
Thank
they
you.
paint with me in the studio sometimes, and they show up spontaneously when I'm working, and I have a little area in the studio that they can work on stuff. So it's always fun.
Always fun, always changing and always fun and always growing.
Yeah,
Wow. Well, congratulations on that.
thank
Um,
you.
Julia, you've said you've lived in 4 different countries, so that means that you've carried your art with you as carried with you. At what time in your life did you make art a full-time part of your life? Or has that just been as of recently?
No, that's a great question. So I was always one of those kids that was identified, she can draw. Like they would say to your mom, my mom, she can draw. And I have a musician for a daughter, and they would say that to her about her in kindergarten, she can keep a beat. So I'm imagining what it was like for my mom. And I was one of those kids, I won the grade 8 awards, the grade 9 awards, the grade 12 awards. I won all the art awards. And then I went off to art college and was in class with 300 kids that they had all won the art awards too. So it became a very different, dynamic once you get out there. But I had always drawn and painted, and I'm very entrepreneurial. So I always say that in that I was a very bad employee. Because I never liked my time being told, you had to be here at 9 and you couldn't leave till 5. And I did have a job like that. For 1 year, I worked at a book publishing house. And I have to say, if I ever met them again, I'd say, I am so sorry. I never wanted to be there. I hated it. So then when I started having kids, it was a great opportunity to work from home. But I was able to stay home, but money was so tight. So tight when you're young and having kids. So I had to figure out lots of ways to make money and be able to stay home. I did not want to work at a coffee shop. I did not want to work, outside the home. Plus, by the time you have 5, you're always getting called. You're always delivering something. Somebody forgot something. So I started doing everything from shabby chic. Like I love watching some of your painting furniture. That was me. I used to collect furniture from the side of the road and old chairs that were broken. I'd put planter pots in it, wrap it around with grapevine and do a few painting touches on it and sell them at pop-up shows in my backyard. And I did whatever I could to stay home. And it worked. I started getting a name. And then by the time I was really getting a name, my husband said, "Hey, let's move to Africa." So I was like, "Oh, okay. Let's just move
Africa."
Yeah. And
okay.
I was a portraiture artist mostly when I was painting. And I was the type, have you ever been to the festivals where people are doing caricatures and pastel portraits?
Absolutely.
I did that all through college to support myself through college. And so I was purely figurative for many, many years. I painted portraits, I painted children. That was the only thing I kind of was attracted to. So when we lived in Tanzania and Kenya, that worked perfectly because the Tanzanian and Kenyan people were so beautiful. And and colorful, the market scenes, so colorful. I was able to paint and paint and paint, and I sold there too. And I would do pop-up shows, and they did very, very well. When I got back to Canada, I found that it's funny to say, I found that white people were not as exciting to paint anymore. It just didn't feel like that to me. Yeah. And plus, I didn't know where that market would be anymore, for figurative type painting. So I went from this dry, dusty land for 4 years where landscape had never really grabbed me. And I wish I could go back now. And I will someday and see, now that I'm a landscape painter, what that might pull from me. Sure. But I came back to Canada and all of a sudden there were colorful autumns and spring and flowers. And so I started painting landscapes, and it really took a turn when, we all work we all work a little better when we're praised.
Yeah. So, yes.
As I started painting certain things, people started wanting those things and commissioning me to do those things. So I go, oh, okay, I needed the money again. So I'll paint that tree. Oh, I really like painting this tree. And other people would say, we really like that tree. And so I started.
Comes your guide, right? Your map of which direction to go.
It became what I did.
Yeah.
And so I started painting a lot of landscape and Canadian landscape, and it hit. I found it and it hit. And I took a studio in my city. I worked on my kitchen table for many, many years. Yeah. And then, so I want to actually tell this story.
Yes, please.
My husband, because we didn't have a lot of money, every time I would spend money on supplies, he would get a little freaked out, right? So I would spend a little bit of money and he'd say, oh my goodness, how do you know you're going to sell to make that back? And then I would sell it and make it back. And so at the next time I went to buy canvas, he was like, oh, okay, well, we know you can make that back. And then I got some stuff framed and he was like, you just spent how much on framing? I'm like, well, I think it's going to sell better if I frame it. And then I sold one of the paintings and it paid for the entire framing. And he was okay. All right. So we can buy canvas, we can get framing done. And then eventually, through all of these little gains and my business growing, eventually I said to him, I think I want to take a studio in downtown Hamilton. And he said, well, do what you want.
You've already proven yourself. You've
already proven that this works.
You can turn this over and you've got what it takes. And then he learned to trust you.
Yeah. And then eventually he's a contractor. So eventually we kind of got involved with the downtown art scene and the buildings that were happening down there and the renovations. And it was a real upcoming for a certain area in Hamilton where the arts were kind of moved in and people were building up this area.
Okay.
And there was something called Super Crawl in my city. And I was part of that. And I got discovered there. Hamilton really discovered me. And then I bought a building. So then we bought a building and we renovated, and I spent 10 years in that studio.
Now,
and then,
I'm just so curious. I'm going to stop. I'm going to
stop. You go ahead
right there, because at what stage of this were you with your children? How old were your children during this time? Because one of the things I've always had is an in-home studio. I've never had a studio outside of my home, and I never could process how I would do it or where I would be there. How would I get there?
Yeah.
I felt like I would always be pulled back. So I'm just curious about your timeline.
So when my kids were little, it was in my garage and on my coffee table or on my kitchen table. Then we moved to Africa for their middle school years. So when we lived there for 5 years. We went there between, my daughter was in third grade to 8th grade, my youngest.
Okay.
So we did those middle years. And then when we came back to Canada, she was in high school. She went to 9th grade.
Okay.
And at that point, I was still working on my kitchen table. So then I thought, I'm going to take this studio. One of the reasons I took the studio is because the owner of the building who wanted me to rent, he said, well, why don't you do a little pop-up show during this art crawl that I talked about and see if, it works for you. So I did a little pop-up in the building while they were renovating, and I would sell enough each month, and he let me do it 3 times. I would sell enough each month to pay the possible rent. Right? Because at first I said, why would I rent anything when it's free on my kitchen table? And the initial reason I went down is because the owners of the building were all lawyers. So I'm like, they all have money. I will go down and I will introduce myself and show them my art. And the one lawyer bought, and then the other lawyer bought. And I thought, well, I don't even need to take a space. I'm just going to introduce myself. I just took opportunity, but then it was such a great space. And then having your own space where you can go work, shut the door when it's done. I used to have to clean up the table for dinner.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And then my living room was always messy and it was just chaotic. And so having this space was perfect. It also afforded my children an opportunity to become more independent, because they'd call, I forgot this. Sorry, I'm at the studio. You're going to have to go without lunch or without that paper. You're going to have to talk to your teacher yourself. And so that happened. And then by the time I actually took the space, my youngest was in probably 10th grade.
Okay. All right. So he or she was about to drive. They were getting in that stage. So
and we lived in a small town. They could walk.
They could walk. Okay. The other thing is, like, I remember being on my island and I would lay down old beach towels, and being on my island in the kitchen. And that's where I would paint before I realized I'm going to have to go outside. Like, I am taking over every room. And even now I take over the whole house. I mean,
well, Dionne, I'm now back. So I bought a building, and I had a studio in that building for 10 years. But again, remember I said that I am a bad employee? Well, what I put on the door, because it was a a street level storefront building. So it
Okay.
had apartments up top that we rented out, and I had the studio. So I put on the door, available by appointment or by chance. So I refused to put like 9 to 5. I'm going to be
Yeah.
here, because I
No
was like,
commitment.
nobody's telling me when I have to be here. So it was available by choice, chance, or by appointment only. And people would come in when I was there, but it was great. But now I'm back. I'm in my studio. I don't know if I can show
Okay.
you around.
And this is your home space.
This is my home space. My studio is an old shed that we renovated in the garage,
Wonderful.
and it's out in my garden. And this is where I work, but it's not big enough. I really need a barn. So like you, there are paintings in my formal living room. There are prints in this room, and there's boxes in the closet of the playroom.
Yes. Yes. I take over every single room. And even the guest shower, which we don't know when ever comes over to take a shower.
Right.
It is absolutely full of packing supplies and some really large paintings. So
That's right. That's right. And I set up the garden for garden tours, and we photograph outside sometimes. And the car is full and being transported full of stuff to the gallery. And I get a lot of steps.
Yeah, you get a lot of steps, and it's fun.
It
Like
is fun.
you're passionate about what you do, right? It's a lifestyle of being a creative. Like it's an absolute lifestyle, not just an entrepreneur. Who taught, like, where did you get the entrepreneurial spirit? Was it your parents or grandparents or?
I actually don't really know.
Mhm.
I was kind of sad. My mom passed away when I was 13.
Oh,
And my dad was not really the greatest. He was an alcoholic, and he wasn't around. My mom divorced him quite young.
okay.
So I moved in with my eldest sister, who was 16 years older than me. She and her husband took myself and my youngest sister in. And she was always very supportive. But both of them would be like, okay, you can take as many art courses as you want and in high school, but you have to take typing. Because, ultimately, you could become a secretary, or something. And so I took typing, which I'm quite thankful that I can type at this point.
Yeah.
But I always took all the art courses, and I think I just learned that I was not a great employee. I think that was one of the things where it's like I just didn't want to go to work. And if you aren't a great employee, you could beat yourself up about that. But then you have to say, well, what do I want to do? And how can I make, at the time, what was minimum wage way back then? $7 an hour?
$7.25, something like that.
Something. How can I make $7.25? Or if I want to work all day, 8 hours, how can I make $40 and stay home? So I actually learned how to make those things. I made canvas banners at Christmas time that people loved, that I would sell at a show. I would do all the tents. I would take all my stuff and in the rain and and the wind. And I would do all of those until I developed enough that I didn't need to do those anymore.
Yeah.
And then, so all that journey, took me through to COVID. And then when COVID happened, COVID was great for artists if you pivoted.
Yeah, you had to be flexible and pivot and say, okay, how do I fit into the new climate of the world?
That's right. Because I remember by then I was so we'll skim over. I worked, I went to Africa, I worked at my kitchen table, I bought a building, I had a studio. So I was developing. And again, remember I said about this art crawl. This art crawl happened monthly. So I was slowly being discovered by Hamilton. They liked what I did. Art galleries were discovering me. A big thing, Dionne, is that I started getting professional photos done of my work.
Okay.
And I would put those on my website, and art and galleries. So this is a huge tip for anybody who doesn't want to document their work. I had art galleries would say, we love the new direction of your work. And I'd say, well, it's just a good photograph. So, but it made a difference because I had gallerists call me and say, we'd really like to carry you now. So at one point I was in 12 to 15 galleries across the country, and then realized that's just too much. It's just too much. And so now I'm in 5, including my own, and I'm quite happy with that. And I don't even know, is that where I was going with this story, but that's where.
Well, we were going to the point where we reached COVID and you had to pivot your business, friend.
That's right. So COVID happened, and I remember standing at my counter with a cup of coffee, getting the first email from one of those first 12 galleries saying, we're closing. Like, we're not going to be open, and going, oh, so unless they pivot, nobody's seeing my work, right? Unless they pivot, because their doors are closed. And I was doing at the time a very successful little show in my studio once a year. And I started out by doing 20 to 30 to 40 of my own 12 by 12 paintings. And I would put them up and I would say, okay, I'm going to sell them all for, at the time, I believe it was $250 Canadian, remember. So real deal for Americans. And I would have people line up, and over about 5 years, it became a very successful show in the city. People would line up 70 to 100 people down the street. December, it was cold. My husband would give out treats in line. And we had about 20 other artists that I had curated in by that time just for this show, because I wasn't a gallery. I would just curate in for this show. And I'm pretty good. Social media was really happening. So I was pretty good at Instagram, and I was pretty good at Facebook, and didn't do YouTube at the time, but pretty good at Instagram, was really building my followers there. And people really loved the show. And they used to always ask me, how can we buy from your show? And at the time, I didn't do e-commerce. It was simply an in-person show. So we had to pivot. And I had started working with a marketing firm. So I was starting to work with a marketing firm. They were building a good website for me, not just a web building firm. It was actually a marketing firm. So they were coaching me, and we were running ads, and we were doing things like that.
Okay.
So he said, okay, well, we could take it online. Like, we could make it a live thing. So I had to pivot. This was, I'm trying to remember what months COVID was. So I had to have enough time to plan this. So I wrote to all the artists and I said, okay, we don't need you to send me a painting this year, but I need a good photo. Okay. And we're going to put it online. And I was marketing that. And before then, the only way I sold was to other people who weren't able to be there in person. Is after the show, I would consolidate all the paintings that were left. I'd take a picture of it, put it on Instagram, and people would screenshot it, circle what they wanted.
I love it.
Send me an e-transfer, and then I'd mail it to them.
I love it.
So that's the way I did it in person. But then, we took it online, and we made a WordPress e-commerce site. And my partner, who is my partner now in Square Foot Show, but my marketing guy said, well, how many people do you think are going to shop? And I said, well, 75 to 100 people come in person, and they usually buy 1 or 2, and we have about 200 paintings in the show. Maybe 150 might go online. Maybe.
Yeah. Now keep in mind, this is not just your work. You're
not just my work.
At
this point, we had 200 pieces of all these artists that I had been developing relationships with, and I had a good eye. So it was people that were, these were great artists. People wanted them.
Yeah.
And so we had about 200 paintings, 12 by 12 paintings, and they were all selling for about, I think, $250 or $300.
Okay.
Well, the show went live. Over 2,000 people hit the site. Crashed it twice in the first hour. And because WordPress wasn't savvy enough to recognize milliseconds, we sold a multiple of 30 extra paintings.
Oh gosh.
So we're like, I remember, I only figured that out by doing the math after checking the bank account, at midnight, going, there's too much money in here for how many paintings we sold. You know,
Yeah.
we
So you
only had
had
about
200 available and you sold over 230.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're like, this isn't working. So then I had to phone all the artists and say, are you willing? Do you have more in your roster? And are you willing to repaint? And they all were.
Of
And
course.
all the customers were just thrilled that it went so well that they were all in.
Wow,
So
Julia.
they either got a painting from the artist that was something different, or they asked for a redo.
Sure.
And everybody was happy. So the next day, my marketing guy, now turned partner, phoned me and he's like, Julia, I bought squarefootshow.com. I got Square Foot Show Instagram and Square Foot Show Facebook. I think we need to make this a business. This was crazy.
Amazing.
This
Yeah,
was
that's a
crazy.
crazy turnout to sell. And you're talking in 24 hours. Did you just do
Yeah.
24 hours then too?
No, at that time it was 3 days, but
Okay.
it was 24 hours
That they all sold because
that
they
they
were
all
gone.
sold.
Oh my
That they
gosh.
all sold. So we did, I think, 2 more shows that year. It was still COVID. So the reaction was the same each time. So we started getting all these applicants. So now we're opening it up to this. We needed applicants, and we needed, a jury, and we needed, so it just kept growing. So we kind of call it a little bit of the Black Friday of Square Foot of sales, online sales, because everybody has to do it in the first, 8 hours. We
Yeah.
even debated having an 8-hour or a 4-hour show. Like, that's it.
Wow. There's
But we're now down to once a month and 24 hours.
Okay. Okay. That's
Yeah.
such a sense of urgency. It's such a smart business model. It's astonishing. And it's so inspiring that people were just gravitating towards what
Yeah.
you were offering. And then that you built so much trust up. Like they had trust in you, knowing that the artists you were bringing into your show were going to be
I love
quality.
that. I love that, Dionne. So they knew me already.
Mhm.
I wasn't a flash in the pan. I'd already
Yeah.
built a business.
Yeah.
People knew who I was, and then they started
Trusted
trusting
you.
these other artists. So it's been amazing. We've managed to sell $1.5 million worth of art in 4 years. We've sold over 4,500 pieces. And lifted artists. There's always a new artist in the show. We've got headliners, which you're going to be one of our headliners.
Yes, I'm so honored to be a headliner for this show.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for
it's
this
going to
opportunity.
be great. And headliners introduce Square Foot Show to a whole new group of people. And we're thrilled to do that. And we're thrilled that we're not a gallery. So the big thing that we don't do is gatekeep the names. So we always say, if you didn't get Dionne's piece, don't come to us. Go straight to Dionne. Find out if she's got more.
That's good.
Right?
Yeah.
And artists have been discovered by galleries through Square Foot Show. In fact, we opened a gallery 2 years ago, and I curated in our artists. I just, I had some data. I was like, who sells out every time?
Yeah, exactly. You had a lot of reporting to go and
I
say.
had a lot of reporting to look at.
Yeah.
And I said, who sells out all the time? Hey, you want to be in my gallery? And so now we have a gallery with 35 artists, and they all sell really well. And we opened up a gallery in an old Woolworths store. So we have a 5,000 square foot gallery. We have a cafe in there, so you can come in, you can work. And the whole thing with the cafe is it's really a trick. It gets you just looking at the art, and then you fall in love and they buy art.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you now have a gallery, and what's that called?
Crown and Press.
Crown and Press. And that's on social media as well?
It is.
Yes.
Yep. Crown and Press on Instagram, crownandpress.com.
So let's just talk. Let's talk about the motivation. The whole point of my podcast is to take people like yourself who have gone through the good, the bad, and the ugly and keep showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know how you stay motivated, because I know you have times where it's harder than others. Either sales dip so low, there's no explanation, the economy, people are saying people aren't buying art. Like there's just so many things that I know you've had to deal with, let alone you're still creating art yourself. You still have to be inspired. You still take trips to find inspiration. And when you are at a low spot, a low place, how do you overcome it and continue to move forward, Julia?
That's a really good question. And I do hit low spots. And I think I give myself permission to wallow for a day or two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then I have to figure out how to break that little cycle, and how, if sales have dipped, what do I need to do to make a sale?
Yeah.
And how do I show up on Instagram? And how do I show up and doing lives for a little while? I think we were talking off camera. You were saying you did a lot of lives. I
Thousands.
started doing lives during COVID, and that, I think, is one of the things that, people started relating. And even now I'll have people say to me, your lives kept us sane during COVID. So, and I think seeing other people motivate me, and because I've got now a lot of artists who are in our roster, and I have, trying to support them, I just, how do I say? I just kick myself in the butt and just get back up there.
Yeah.
And you can't get motivated. I can't get motivated to paint unless I'm painting. Right? The next idea comes when I'm painting the first idea. Then they start coming so fast, and you just have to keep going. If I can't be in my studio 3 to 4 times a week for 5 to 6 hours at a time, then my kids are like, "Oh, mom's ornery." And they're like, "Just leave her alone. Let her paint."
Let her paint. Working out the chaos. I say I always create to calm my chaos. Like I create to calm the chaos that's going on, and it gets worse and worse and worse and worse until I just go, okay, I'm creating now. And then I can slow back down and everything makes more sense. There's more clarity.
It's like this huge to-do list in your mind that you're never getting to. And then when you do, you go, oh, that didn't take so long. It's the tension of that and the stress of that, thinking about the to-do list, is when I don't paint. And when I do paint, I'm like, oh, well, I can accomplish anything now.
Yes.
But I often coach people to figure out something. I've coined a phrase called grocery money paintings. If it's a painting, if you're working on jewelry or whatever it is, it's a grocery money item that pays for your life, that you can produce easily. Well, you can do it over and over again. People like it, that you are pretty confident that you can sell. That way you can breathe a little bit, and then do the fantasy, painting, or the thing that you're wanting to try next. I've just been exploring in the last 2 year abstracts, and it just put me in a little bit of a vulnerable place, because I know how to do a representational painting.
Beautiful.
Do I know how to do an abstract? Do I know the principles and the elements of design, or what? And it's been a real challenge, and it really puts you in a vulnerable place. So having to pay for your groceries is a good motivation.
It absolutely is. It's why so many of us started in the first place. Just like you said, I relate to that. I did it out of necessity so I could be with my boys, so I could make money at the ballpark, so I could, creating online. I never wanted an online store. Websites were for other people, or like, what is Etsy? I would say I have an Etsy store, and people are like, is it Etsy, or are you talking about eBay? And I'm like, no, it's not eBay. Like, how many times do I have to say it's a new thing? Except this new thing's been around 10 years. And nobody knows about it. Just spending years working and nobody really knowing what you're doing at the counter in your kitchen, but you are just sun up to sundown. The ideas are running, and you're just feeling alone. And I always tell people that if you can't find the thing you need, that you may be the one that needs to create it. And that's when I created my coaching, my memberships. It was like, I'm so lonely. I am so lonely in this garage. I need connection and nobody else wants to hang out with me. So let me just see if this online community that I've been showing up for, lives showing people how to paint,
Yeah.
let's see if they want to actually pay me for a little bit of my knowledge and let's connect every week. And I had to create what I couldn't find and what
Yeah.
I needed. It's what I needed to keep going, was just to kind of have that connection so the growth would come naturally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And faithful collectors happen.
Yeah.
They love your work. They love your story. They love to have part of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And they love the story. That's another thing, being vulnerable and telling the stories about why did you start? The first time I had a buyer email me and say, "What were you feeling when you painted this? What was going on?" And she got some really personal questions. And I thought, what is she, crazy? But then I thought, no, she wants to pay for this painting online. So I might as well just give it to her. Well, here's what I was doing, and here's when I painted, and here's what I
Well,
was.
and did you find, Dionne, initially, like I am an entrepreneur. So, and then I was responding to what people liked as well as painting what I wanted, and they were buying it. So having that question might have challenged me at the time to go, I can't just answer, it pays for my grocery. Like I was feeling like it was going to pay for my groceries.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had to think like, why do I paint forest scenes and islands in the Muskokas, which is our cottage country up here? And what is it that attracts me about these things? And I realized that when I did the self-exploration, I was painting moments in time that were peaceful, things that I had in my
Mm.
memory. Like if I had, my mom passed away and my dad was an alcoholic, we didn't go to the Muskokas that often, and we didn't
Mhm.
go to cottages or things like that. But when we did, I was like, oh, this is it. Or walking in the forest, this is it. And I realized that's what I'm painting.
That's what you're painting.
That's what
Same
I'm
reason, same reason I paint flowers. And
Yeah.
I started painting flowers. It felt so easy. It's because it's a universal language that although we may not be from the same background, we may not understand each other. We all have this universal language of understanding flowers
Mm-hmm.
bloom.
Yep.
Flowers are hope. They're a symbol, and it's a universal language. We typically share flowers during really important times in our lives.
Yeah.
And I wanted to cherish those moments at a deeper level by painting something that would never die,
Yeah.
that would just live on and have hope forever. So thank
It's
you for
beautiful. It's
yeah.
beautiful. And I've had, like, we could talk for hours. I've had people, I painted a scene once. It was just a real quick story. It was an island scene. It had beautiful clouds, and there was this little pink cloud or almost bird-like thing in the sky.
Mhm.
I didn't think anything of it, but I thought, what do I call this painting? And I called it Soaring Spirit, because I saw that little thing and I'm like, oh, it looks like something's flying up there. So what do I call it? Soaring Spirit. I didn't sell it for a few months. And this couple came into my studio and they were looking for a piece, and they were looking at what I had on the wall. And I said, well, let me pull this painting out. And I pulled it out and I put it up on the easel, and they said, oh, it's so beautiful. That looks like a bird in the sky. And I said, yeah. And they said, well, what do you call it? What's the name of it? And I said, well, it's called Soaring Spirit. And they just stood there and looked at me very calmly. They were very calm. They just looked at me. And they said, like, give us a minute. We're going to go chat over here. And they went and chatted, and then they came back and they said, we'll take the painting. We want this painting. So they bought the painting, but the husband, they had just been so quiet. I was like, okay, are they excited about buying this painting?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he wrote me later and he said, the woman I was with is my wife, but she's not my first wife. She was my first wife's best friend. And my first wife died 3 years ago, and we've fallen in love since and gotten married. But she was beside my wife when my wife died. She slept in the bed with my wife. She took care of us, like, and now we've fallen in love. And he said, Julia, our grief group is called Soaring Spirits.
I just got chills.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yes, because you always know that a painting is for someone. So when it takes years to sell, if the person hasn't found it yet.
And it's happened so many times.
Oh,
It's wild.
that's such a beautiful story.
Providential.
Thank you for that. I'm not going to forget that. And I
Yeah.
got the chills there. So tell me what dreams are coming up next for you? Like what dreams have you had? Do you have that you are still building and imagining and being hopeful and just, when you get to explore possibilities, where do you go with that, Julia?
Well, there's some things, and some things I'm like, well, when is this going to happen? I would love to kind of do residency or just go and
Mm.
paint somewhere for like a month. And could in a different country, but then I have all these little grandkids. I'm going to miss them too much, right? Like, so I have to figure
Right.
out, when is this going to happen? I'm going to do it when they all go to school and they're all busy. But then there was something else. I keep saying to my husband, I need a barn. I need a barn. This is too small. I feel like there's more, like there's some more expressive stuff that might come if I had a place where I could make a mess. Like this, we made this really nice. Too nice to mess up completely. Right. So I
Yeah.
need that. I need a shed. But my husband actually said to me, he's like, well, if you really think you need a barn or something, find a warehouse that they don't care if you got paint on it and rent it for a month and see if it does do the thing that you want. So those are percolating.
Mhm.
Those little thoughts are percolating, and
Mhm.
traveling, yes, and being inspired, but there's not enough hours in the day.
I agree. How am I ever going to actually do all the things I want to do?
I know.
I'm like, there's just, I mean, I'm going to be 50 next year.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to teach in Italy. I've been invited to teach in Italy next year. And so I'm thinking, I want more of that. I've never done that. I want more of that. But then again, I'm like you. I want people here.
Yeah.
I want to have experiences. I want to create the transformation and just create the space for them where they're safe and they have more expressive work come from them. And like, so finding that balance. And then I'm right behind you a little bit because I have one married without kids and one getting married. And they both want to have kids. So I'm right behind you in knowing
Yeah.
when is the right time. I don't know. I don't know
I
when
don't
the
know.
right
Like
time is.
after this, we have to go because I haven't seen two of my grandchildren for a week and a half. So we're taking pizza to their house for dinner, right? Like it's just trying to figure out how to meet all the needs
Oh,
and
I'm
to
so
meet your own.
inspired.
But then we remember, there are times that we remember at the gallery and different things. There are no art emergencies.
Oh,
So if something I'm doing has to be delayed, as long as I communicate, like most of my clients are very, very happy. But there's no art emergency that means I need to stay up till midnight to do this, to be so, so excited. You want to meet all your commitments, but
yeah,
being delayed or not being able to paint that fifth painting that you wanted to get done for the show, it's okay.
it's okay.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So inspiring. I'm so inspired by your story, and I know other people will as well. I do have one more question for you,
Okay.
though. What do you feel like the younger Julia, the 10-year-old Julia, the 12-year-old Julia, even the 14-year-old Julia, what would she think about the life that you've built in your art career?
So that's very exciting. And that goes back to when I got asked about why I painted. I remember as a 10-year-old, 14-year-old, 12-year-old, 8-year-old, my mom was sick. My dad wasn't around. I remember trick or treating in a neighborhood, seeing houses and families and saying, that's what a family is. Or I want a family. I would like to live in a house, not an apartment building. I had dreams and goals. And now when I, on a Sunday afternoon, see all of the kids that are hanging out at my house and calling me Goga, and we're having dinner, and my kids had a mom and a dad, and we gave them the experiences. We lived in Africa, different, like that 8-year-old, I think, would be so excited to know what was coming.
Absolutely.
And it's all because we took some risks. right? It's all because we stepped out, and in faith, we stepped out, and in believing that God had great things for us, but we had to take the opportunity. We were dirt poor at times.
Yeah.
And but we did it, and I don't think my kids remember the times where they didn't get the stuff. I think they remember the times of traveling to Tanzania, taking a bus in London because we were on our way, and we went those are the exciting things.
Experiences. Yeah, those are the experiences they remember, not the birthday present they didn't get.
No, and I think the 14-year-old would be proud, that I get to do this.
Mhm.
It's what I wanted to do when I was 14. It's
Mhm.
what my daughter is an opera singer, and she has some real success in this in her field. And I think when she was 3, when we recognized her talent, like, she wanted it all along too. And I think what me pursuing my dreams allowed my kids to say, "Oh, well, you do what you want to do."
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for answering that. That's a tough question sometimes.
Mhm.
And I relate to so much of that story. So thank you for sharing. And I know that our listeners are really going to be inspired. I want you to tell them where they can find more of you, how
Okay.
they can learn more about the Square Foot Show, any more information that you want to share with them. Go ahead. We will be able to have that listed down in the description, but I want them to hear it from you, Julia.
Okay. Okay. So you can find me on Instagram. That's where I started everything. It was J Veenstra Artist. I don't know why I didn't put my whole name in there. And I think I can change it at this point, but I just never have. So it's J Veenstra Artist. On YouTube, it's Julia Veenstra Artist. And I'm having so much fun on YouTube, Dionne.
You're doing
I
great, girl.
do.
You're killing it. You're
My
killing.
tagline is living the artful life. So we cover all sorts of things. It's not just painting in the studio, because I don't always have time to make videos about painting. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm thrifting with my daughter. Let's do a thrifting show. Let's do gardening. And I think people are enjoying it. And they can find me there. They can find the Square Foot Show at squarefootshow.com. So if they're an artist, I want them to apply. There'll be a list of themes that they can apply to. And if they are a collector, I want them to register for our newsletter, because they will be entered to win a free painting every month. But also, I'm going to introduce them to so many wonderful artists. They're not even going to know what to do with themselves. And then
Absolutely.
Crown and Press is my gallery in Canada. We do a neat thing at Crown and Press that most galleries don't. I'm a firm believer. So, oh my gosh, we could go off on another tangent here, Dionne. I'm a firm believer in residual income. So we do reproductions. I have a very large print line of my work.
Awesome.
There are prints that have made me $100,000. There are images that have made me, that much, because they're popular.
Yeah.
We teach, we print, we have a printing, we have shipping room, we have printing processes, all that stuff. We teach residual income. So all the art that is available in my gallery is also available in print, and we ship all around the world. So if people can go to crownandpress.com and they can look. I'm also developing a company named Art Label, where I'm representing artists and we're doing their ship program. I'm sorry for all the dinging. Somebody's from Square for Show is texting me, because the Square for Show goes live tonight, or
It,
the preview goes live tonight at 8:00.
yeah. Yes.
And it
So
goes
this,
live on Thursday, September 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard
so
Time.
this should
But
air on the 11th, and we will have autumn displayed today. Like, this will go live on the 11th, September 11th, and your autumn show is happening.
That's right. That's right. At 8. And so the last thing we were developing is a company called Art Label, where we're representing artists and we're doing their print production. So we're doing their print production and their shipping, and doing their e-commerce on their websites. But that's sort of launched and being launched. So I forgot to say that in what's coming up in the dreams that
Yeah.
you asked. So that's
There's a
another
lot,
company that we're going with.
there's a lot there. Many people will listen and go, how in the world does she do all of these things?
I have a
Um,
team. I have a team.
that's good. That's helpful, isn't it? Thank goodness for teams.
It is. Yeah. And my
Julia, thank
biggest
you.
team member, My biggest team member is the lady who helps clean my house. Like, she's the biggest one, because I would go nuts if I had to do that too.
I feel that. I tell people the first employee was a housekeeper because I started calculating the amount of money versus the amount of hours it would save me. And then I took those hours and thought, how much could you get done in those hours that you would spend cleaning the house with two little boys in that bathroom? Like, how much time what could I do? And that was the
Mhm.
first thing. That was like, that's a no-brainer. And plus there are people, like, I love being able to pay the team, I love that part
Yeah.
also, that I am able
Yeah.
to pay them as well, and give them work for what they love to do too.
I always say my housekeeper does not clean my house. She brings joy and peace and organization.
And that's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. It's just like taking one thing off your plate and just
Yeah.
bringing you so much joy.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing that out and making that statement. Everybody, thank you so much for listening today. If you've made it to the end of this, I so hope you have. What I want you to do is make sure that you pull up Julia on Instagram, go to the Square Foot Show, go to Crown and Press, and go to J Veenstra Artist on Instagram. Don't forget our YouTube videos too, because you will enjoy those. Hit up all the places. You're going to be inspired. You're going to be motivated. And that's what the Motivatarian Exchange is all about. This is a conversation between two people who have to kind of stay motivated as their
Mhm.
life, like in their career, and go through the moments where we are not feeling it, which typically I've learned that those are setups for what's coming, even though it might feel like the setback, that we are amidst a breakthrough. And it's our responsibility to share the story.
Mhm.
So
So good.
thank you so much, Julia. It's been a pleasure. I loved learning a little bit more about you. I also am very excited to be a headliner for the Square Foot Show, and learn more
Coming up
about all
next
the
year.
things. It's
That's
coming
right.
up. Absolutely. Everybody, we will see you next time on the Motivatarian Exchange. Thanks so much.
Bye, everybody.